Perfect. This is good to start. So today we are going to discuss some of the things, which is like the type of questions and the knowledge required for this exam, the four domains that needs to be covered. What are the tips for scoring good marks in an AWS certification exam? What are the next certifications that you should take after taking Cloud Practitioner? We do have a surprise at the end, and quiz winner will be announced via our social channels. Thank you so much for joining once again. And let me put some of the disclaimer that we have. So this session is getting recorded live on YouTube as well as Zoom recording live. And we will be sharing the recordings with all of you. So in case you missed the session by any chance, or if there is a house full here, we'll be sharing the YouTube link so that some of you can join there. Okay, so it's perfect. Let's start. The type of questions. So there are two type of questions that you will face in the real exam. The first is multiple choice, where you have only one correct option and three are correct, incorrect option that is added as a distractor. And the second type we have is multiple response, where we have two or more correct answers, and out of five, the options that are present. For Cloud Practitioner, AWS has not introduced exam lab items yet, but we may expect some of the basic lab for other certification exam, not for Cloud Practitioner certification exam. So this is one of the sample question, and I would like all of you to participate with me. Okay. So which of the following AWS service is compute serverless? Can you all please post your chat answers in the chat? Perfect. I see some of you have already given the answer, which is very nice. Perfect. Let's see all the options one by one. So let's shift. Okay. So in this question, we need to take care of only one keyword, which is compute serverless. Okay. So let's see the option one. Option one says this is incorrect because Redshift is popularly known as cloud data warehouse. Option two says managed compute service because EC2 is somewhere you have servers to manage, which is not a serverless service. Then comes Beanstalk, which uses EC2 in the backend. So the obvious correct option is Lambda. Thank you so much for participating in the quiz. We will be having sample quizzes like this, and the winner will be announced via social channel who answers all the quiz with all the correct options. Okay, now recommended knowledge and experience required to take this certification. So AWS recommends that the candidates must have a 6 months of experience with AWS cloud in any role, including technical, managerial, sales, purchasing, finance. So you can be either from technical background or non-technical background. It does not really matter much for AWS. And the next thing is candidates should have a basic understanding of IT and their usage in AWS cloud platform. So here we'll be seeing some of the basics like what are the cloud delivery models, what are the purchasing options that are present with cloud, and all other basic things we'll be checking today. Okay, so that's how marks the completion of the first thing that we discussed, which is the type of question and the knowledge required. Let's see the four domains which is required to cover for the exam. So these are the four domains. The very first is cloud concepts, which covers 26% of weightage for this exam. Second comes this security and compliance. So a lot of roles that are present with AWS is majorly on security and compliance. Then comes the technology. So technology has the highest weightage for this exam. And the last one is billing and pricing. So it carries 16% of exam weightage. Okay, you can find this in the exam guide of Cloud Practitioner. So let's begin with very first domain. The subdomain, there are three subdomains. So we will see the AWS cloud and its proposition. Second is the aspects of cloud economics and the list of different cloud architecture design principles. Perfect. So cloud computing with AWS. Here you can see AWS is now taking up the market of cloud. They have almost everything, more than 200 fully featured services from the global data center that they have. And they also provide a lot of support. Agencies are using, startups are using. So let's read more about what is cloud computing on this reference page that we have got. Okay. So here you can see who is using cloud computing. So organizations of any type, any industry is using that. They are having variety of use cases such as data backups, disaster recovery, email, virtual desktop, software development, testing, big data, anything that you can think of with your infrastructure, cloud data is now available on AWS. And some of the benefits of using cloud computing is you get agility. So you have a broader range of technologies. Using that, you can innovate faster, fail faster, and nearly build anything that is present. The second most advantage it provides is the elasticity that it has. So when it comes to elasticity, you can provision any resource that you can think of, or maybe going up to like 1000 GB of resources or even more than that. Then comes the cost saving. So AWS provides a lot of purchase options that you have. So one of the very popular one is pay as you go, wherein you only have to pay for what you use, not for everything that you consume. Okay. And the last is deploy globally in minute. So within a minute, you can spin up an EC2 instance, you can put your code in Lambda, and it will give you impromptu output. Okay, so these are the four top benefits, which is agility, elasticity, cost saving, and deploying globally in minutes. Now let's see the second option, which is the type of cloud computings that are currently present. So there are three most featured model. There are others though, but these are the three most featured, which is infrastructure as service, platform, and software as a service. Okay, so here on AWS, you can either build your whole infrastructure using the services like EC2 and Cloud Formation. And for platform as a service, you can either use Beanstalk. And for software as a service, there are a lot of things like SNS, SQS that you can go with and check it out. Okay, so now let's see the slides that I have got. Perfect. Okay, so AWS clouds and its value proposition. So if you see, this table consults the principles and the concepts that are present. So we just discussed about agility, elasticity, security. We didn't discuss yet because it is the first major thing that customers or companies choose when it comes to cloud computing. And flexibility, because you have a lot of services that are present, and it can be used at almost free of cost if you have the free tier account. Okay, this is the type of cloud computing that we discussed. I have a very good example of how this all three cloud models are present. Okay, but before that, let's answer this quiz, which is like, what is the full form of IaaS? So we just saw here, and can you tell me the correct one? Perfect.
Hi,
Okay.
Abhishek.
Hi.
Yeah, can you just clarify whether this should be answered on Q&A or on chat box? Because a lot of audience are asking about this.
Okay, sure. So now next questions will be for quiz, not this one. Thank you. Okay, so here the obvious answer is infrastructure as service. We just discussed this. And now we are going to see the types of cloud computing that it has with a small example of pizza as a service. Okay, so I found this example very interesting, where you have a traditional on-premise, your infrastructure platform, or even a software. Uh, if you are baking your pizza at home, that is what on-premise is called as. That's what we have been using from years now. Okay, but now things are getting changed. People are going over more managed, where the very first thing comes is take and bake. So take and bake is like half of the things will be given to you, and half of the things will something like you need to do. And then in platform as a service model, you have only limited resources given, and you need to bring your everything for creating the stuff that you want. And the last is where you will have everything given by AWS or by the pizza provider here in this example, and you can enjoy your meal. Okay, so I hope you understood the infrastructure, platform, and software as a service. For example, using this great pizza as a service model. Okay. Now, what are the reasons to use AWS? Why someone should only go with AWS or not with, let's say, Google Cloud or Azure? Okay. So, first of all, it provides most functionality. So, we are going to refer quickly this page where we have the leading cloud provider. So, the very first is most functionality. So, if you see the AWS What's New page or AWS release mail or AWS, if you are subscribed to weekly release, they launch a lot of features every week, and they have like more than 250 services right now. So they are just developing constantly at a very higher pace. So that is first preference why customers or companies choose AWS. The second is it is having the largest community of customers and partners. So if you see someone is talking about AWS because they have done a lot of marketing, they have done a lot of customers, startups are adopting. There are cloud born startups now. So they have got a biggest community on Quera, on Stack Overflow, or on Reddit. You will find a lot of stuff about AWS comparing to the other cloud providers. Now, security. This is something that is very sensitive part of cloud computing model. Your software, your system should always be up all the time with your data maybe securing at rest or securing at transit. This both matters a lot because you are putting out your PII, personal identification information. So you need to be very much secure, and AWS gives a lot of security. And now they are coming with services like Guard Duty, Inspector, Mackie, where you can use machine learning to detect the threat or the anonymous things. Now, fastest pace of innovation. So if you see the What's New page or that we discussed just now, in 2014, they only had very small set of AWS services. But within these 6 to 7 years, they have got a really high, and now the bar is more than 200. Most proven operational expertise. Now, AWS is one of the first cloud years of industry experience now. So that's what the benefits of using AWS. Okay, now let's identify the aspects of cloud economics, which is our subdomain 1.2. So when it comes to billing part, AWS has four type of things that using you can manage. So the very first is pay as you go pricing model, where you have something like, let's say, Lambda. Now, if I'm running 1,000 line of code, or if I'm running 20 line of code, I'll have to pay only for what I use. Then comes the tiered pricing. So tiered pricing is actually a kind of, say, reserved pricing, where you reserve the resources, you use more and pay less, you get a lot of discount. We'll be discussing this in the further sections. Then comes the cost optimization. Now, for cost optimization, AWS has a lot of features. One of the features with S3 is like, if you're not using your data, you can transform it to different storage classes that are present, or if your data is not required or not accessible much, you can transfer it to either Glacier or infrequent zone, or maybe one local infrequent zone, something like that. So where you will save a lot of cost. And last is trusted advisor. So this is a service at all, which provides you a lot of visibility into your organization account or your personal account, and it tells you that where you can go and optimize your cost. Now, next, we discussed this, the benefits of cloud computing. Now, let's see the core principle. Why cloud computing is so much ahead of us. So, the very first thing is scalability. If you see how cloud up scales immediately, the second part is the disposal resources instead of fixed servers. So, let's say if you have to give 2 GB of system to someone, rather than purchasing one, you can just quickly use, and once your use case is done, you can destroy that part. The next is automation. Now, automation also comes up with DevOps, where it is more focused on automating the day-to-day tasks that you have. Okay, so you can use services like code pipeline, code deploy to automate your deployments. We'll be seeing the deployment in some time. Then comes the loose coupling. So loose coupling is like you can use services, maybe SQS, where you don't have to bind your users or you don't have to put the data processing all at once. You can process in form of queues. Then comes the services, not the servers. So if you see service like SNS, where you can just use the model of software as a service and you don't have to provision any server. Then comes the databases. AWS has evolved a lot of into databases. If you see, if you want to use managed MongoDB, you can go with DocumentDB, or if you want to use managed IDS, you have a better option of Aurora. And then comes the managing increasing volume of data. Now, we are into a place where data is probably the next big thing we have. Okay, so for this, we require to have a lot of data and also a ways to manage the volumes where we'll be storing this data. Okay, so if you see, Redshift is like cloud warehouse where you can store a lot of data, put a lot of data, but also you need to grow with RDS auto scaling, where you can put the highest limit of data that you want to store in RDS and get your managed your increasing data. Next is removing single point of failure. This is one of the issues with all the organizations because they need to manage their system, they need to manage their software, uh, and there is no disaster recovery present. So disaster recovery model is something that AWS provides with the help of RPO and RTO, where you can fix your things using the global infrastructure and deploy your resources within minute to a new infrastructure. Then the optimization of cost, we saw this, and caching. So caching is technique where your data will be cached in your local system once you visit the site, and second time when you visit it will load faster compared to your previous visit. And the security, which is the major principle. So I hope you have got this. In case you have any queries regarding core principle, you can put it in the Q&A here. Okay, so before proceeding with second domain, I would like to take the Q&A and answer the questions that we have got. Okay. So the very first question is, what are the advantages of private cloud over typical on-premise solutions? Okay. So private cloud is something that is, AWS is definitely not a private cloud. It is a public cloud. Anyone can use. But when it comes to private cloud, uh, companies like IBM or companies like Teradata, they provide this stuff. You get everything that you have with your public cloud. The only difference is you cannot have a direct user integration. You need to build your system, you need to secure your system overhead, and then you will be able to use the private cloud, which gives you a lot of advantages over your typical on-premise solution. Thank you, Indrajit, for asking this question. Okay. Oh, so Abdullah has not understood the loose coupling. Okay. So let me just explain it with the example. Let's say Amazon is processing thousand. Amazon is getting 1,000 orders a day, and they are now able to process those 1,000 orders. And there is a peak or some festival is going on where they got maybe 2,000 orders a day. Now they don't have the option to process 2,000 orders a day. So what they can do is they can use services like SQS and put them into queue. And whenever their capacity is there, whatever is their capacity, they can use only that much. So they don't have to lose the data, or they don't have to go downtime when the lot of traffic is there. So I hope this helped you understand the loose coupling. Thank you for asking this question. Okay. Someone is asking, is webinar going to be available for download or something like that? Yes, webinar will be present on Labs YouTube channel. You can check this maybe after 2 to 3 days. We'll be posting this in a edited form. So yeah, everything will be present, even the slides. Okay. Someone wants to understand with caching. So QCOM DTD, I think he is using organization. Okay. So caching is, let's say you are developing a website and you have a feature of cart in your site. Okay. And next time when your user purchase, maybe if you have not done the caching, then he will be going to any random different server where he may lose the card value because he just added to the cart and that is stored on some other data. Okay. So caching gives you capabilities like this where you can store that data. And also a lot of time we download the images or the scripts that are present, and with the help of caching you can put them on your local, and you don't have to request to the server every time when you visit the website. Thank you for asking this question. Okay, so I see all the questions are answered. In case you have any questions for me, you can put it in the Q&A section, and I'll not be probably checking the chats, so you can just put it in the Q&A. Okay, so let's understand the shared responsibility model where we as a customer or AWS as a cloud provider has certain responsibility to secure. So now AWS alone cannot secure their system, or we cannot secure the AWS. So we both are here, and there is a shared responsibility model developed by AWS to secure the data. So if we are responsible for security in the cloud, so maybe the customer data, platform, the IAM, role, user, group, everything is on us. Then comes the operating system, whether we are patching the system or not. The network part, we should not allow the internet always. We should be very restricted. And then comes the firewall. So you should not allow all the software to be installed. And your client side, server side, and network traffic, everything is with users. So before going to exam, I request you to go and check out this page of shared responsibility model. And then comes the AWS. Now, AWS is responsible for a lot of stuff, which majorly comprises of the software and hardware, because that's what they provide. They do take care of our region, availability zone, and edge location. And along with that, they take care of compute, storage, database, and networking. Networking is not something on your side, networking from AWS side, that all the services should be available to you as a user. Oh, yes, the mic is working perfectly. Okay. So now I have one sample question, and this will be used for quiz, where you have to only answer one response, one correct response. So according to AWS shared responsibility model, what is the responsibility of customer here, not AWS? Okay, so only one can be correct. You can put it in the chats only. Don't put in the Q&A. Sure, I'll give you 10 more seconds to answer for those who are thinking. Okay. Time's up now, and we'll be seeing each of the options. So, yes, first option is correct. Securing data with encryption, that is our responsibility. Next is, this one is also correct because we are the one who is managing our IAM part. And third is configuring security group. Yes, this is our responsibility. Then the correct option for this is all of the above. Thank you once again for participating in this quiz. I hope you enjoyed, and let's move to the next slide. If you have any questions, you can always post in the Q&A, and I'll be taking once the domains are getting over. Okay. Now, what are the benefits of AWS security? How AWS is saying that your data is safe. Is it really safe? Okay, so let's see. AWS infrastructure puts strong safeguard in place to help you protect your privacy, and all the data is stored into highly secure AWS data centers. Now, when it comes to data center, who manages that? Can you as a customer or can you as a enterprise visit the data center? No, unless and until you have a very valid proof of visiting the data center, you cannot visit their data centers. And even not even AWS employees a lot of time has the access to the data centers. So your data is really safe. Then second part is meeting the compliance requirements. Now a lot of organizations use the models like dedicated host, where because they have the compliance requirement. Also they use something like glacier so that they can put their audit data or the compliance of the company. So AWS already has dozens of compliance programs which it runs, and almost all of the services are under compliant. Now, next is save money. So you can cut the cost by using AWS data center. Because let's say if you are purchasing any hardware or getting something that is for your security, you are not sure that AWS is gonna save your data or not. You can trust all AWS always. Then scale quickly. Now, security also scales. Let's say if your data is getting increased, you might be thinking of whether it is really secured or not. So using AWS, the scale quickly option gives you a lot of flexibility to, no matter what the size of your business is, your data is always safe. Okay, so this is a little bit about IAM, how it works. I have used this in previous slides, so if you are revisiting this webinar, I'm sure you know about this. So there are two major entities, which is IAM user and IAM role. Okay, but for this, on their both of the top, they have IAM policies assigned, which defines what you will be using, what are the tasks to perform, and what are the access that you have, maybe something like S3 read only access or EC2 read only access or administrator access. Okay, and then all of these IAM users are part of a IAM group. So if you have a finance team or if you have a DevOps team, then you can add your similar developers to the same group and get the same privilege. And then we use IAM role for the services like EC2 to give the access, or maybe a service like Lambda, where you need to define the role of what this code or what this platform can do for you. Also, a lot of services assume the role. So maybe S3 is something which assumes the role and it gives you something like resource-based policy and IAM-based policy using your IAM capabilities. Also, you can use your cross-account access with IAM. You can have identity federation. You can use MFA with IAM. And once you are reading about IAM, I'm sure you will check out these other options too. Now, let's see more about IAM. So I will just visiting this link again. And here we have things like what are the use cases of IAM. So let's understand this. Now, using IAM, you can have fine-grained access control to your AWS resources, because IAM enables you to use a very particular thing. So let's say if you only want your users to do something like list bucket, you can assign S3 list bucket and they will only have that access. Or whether you want to put as a very specific condition like use only this region for accessing AWS, then that is also fine, absolutely fine with IAM policy. Okay. Then comes the multi-factor authentication. Now, multi-factor authentication plays a very important role, especially with companies where they have a lot of data stored. And MFA, you can have hardware MFA or enabled on your Google Authenticator or Morphe or Apple Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator that is there. So using that, you can get one-time password and just authenticate yourself before logging in. Then using analyze access for your account, you can see what are the accesses given, who has the access, and you can validate your access quickly. The last option is integrate with corporate AD. So this corporate AD concept is actually by Microsoft, where they have AD managed, which is Active Directory, and if you are using your employees data or your customers data using AD, then you can directly give them the access to AWS console using maybe SSO or API federation, where they can easily use and access the resources created or present in the AWS console. And AWS has three major components. So first is like IAM users and their access, then the IAM roles and their permission, and then the federated user and their permission. So if you are a WizLabs customer and using WizLabs, we have enabled the federated access for the IAM users using API. Now, what are the best practices? When you are creating a user, create your individual users. When you are using groups, go with manage permissions with group. When you are granting permission to someone, grant the principle of least privilege access. When you are auditing, turn on your AWS Cloud Trail, which is a service to provide you inner visibility of your resources and the API calls that are happening. When you are using password, give a strong password policy. You can maybe allow uppercase, lowercase, go something like at least 10 digits is required to create a password. Then you can go with MFA. So if you are using MFA, go with MFA. The software one is and hardware one you can use. And for role, you can use your IAM role for something like EC2 or Lambda. Then when you are sharing your IAM user to share the access, things like cross account access or any other user you are allowing you to use, then you can rotate your security credentials regularly. AWS does recommend you to rotate your credentials after 90 days, 60 days, 50 days, you can rotate. And then the condition, like restrict your users with further condition. You should only use a particular region or availability zone or something like that. You can restrict. And then comes the root. So you should never use root. Expect the first setup. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me recheck the option. It seems that it has been enabled. Okay, so this question is part of the quiz. And if you know which service using, you can rotate your credentials, audit, or delete the keys automatically. You can answer this question. I believe the external noise has been cut now. I'm really sorry for that. Okay, so let's understand. With client-side encryption, it is nearly impossible to access, rotate, or audit the keys automatically. Then comes the SSEC, which does not gives you the privileges to do so. Then comes the SSESC, which is managed by S3 only. So the correct option is SSE KMS. Thank you for participating in this quiz. I'll be taking over to the next. Okay, so here, these are the points that you need to take care of. The objects in the bucket are encrypted at server side, and it gives you flexibility like access control, auditing, rotation, or deletion of the keys. Okay, let's move to the domain 3. But before that, I'd like to take the Q&A that we have. Okay, so first question is, which is more cost efficient, Google Cloud or AWS? That is, Google Cloud bills for using their services in seconds. Okay, so both of them can be used efficiently if you know how to use them very well. Let's say if you are not using any resources, you can automate the creation of that using cloud formation, where you can cut your bills if you're not using them and then automatically create when next time you need it. So I think if you compare, the winner would always be AWS because they have a lot of purchasing option, different purchasing option, where you can cut the cost and optimize it. The next is, okay, customers are not responsible for encryption. Customers are responsible for encryption. So let's say if you are uploading your data in S3 with no encryption, then AWS does not guarantee you the full encryption or the full security of your data. So they explicitly tell you that there are different encryption models that are present and you should use them very well. Maybe SSE S3, SSE C, or SSE KMS. Okay, server side managed encryption and then client side managed encryption. Okay, so I see one of the question from Indrajit is, what are the RDS features to improve availability? Okay, so to improve the availability with RDS, you can go with multi-AZ deployment. Edge location is not there. The read replica is definitely something that you can have. RDS does not give you the global infrastructure, like the global tables. Aurora has this feature where you can use to replicate your data into another region. So the correct two will be read replicas and multi-AZ. Okay. So what is SSM or SSE? Okay, SSE is server side encryption, and SSM is secure string parameter that where you store with system manager. So you should not confuse with SSE and SSM. It is just SSE, which is server side encryption, and CSE is client side encryption. Thank you for asking that question. Now we will move ahead with the next domain, which is domain 3. Okay, so overview of deployment now we will see first. Deployment is addressed using 5 capabilities that are present. So the very first is provisioning the resources, configuring the resources, then comes the deploying, scaling and monitoring. Okay, so provisioning can be done using the services like cloud formation, or you can manually provision them, which is not recommended. Then configuration can be using services like Lambda or your cron jobs, which does the automatic configuration for your service. Then you can deploy them maybe on EC2 or using Beanstalk, or there's a specific service for deploying, which is code deploy. And scale, definitely every service should scale to the highest capability of your customers or your need, and then monitoring. Okay, so these are the 6 services that are majorly used for deployment. The very first is CloudFormation, which is popularly known as infrastructure as a service model, where you just write the code to provision, manage, and deploy the resources. Then comes the Beanstalk. So Beanstalk is where it gives you platform as a service model, and everything is ready-made. You just have to put your code and get up and running. Now, using code deploy, you can deploy your resources on Beanstalk or EC2 or your containers. Now, these two are container related service. You should know them for this exam, but not in detail. It is fine. So containers are managed Docker service. It just gives you a EC2 instance where Docker is pre-installed, and using that, you can just launch any of the services or create your Docker file to deploy the images. And then comes the managed Kubernetes service. This is a new service by AWS. There is one more for containers, which is serverless container management tool called as Fargate. And then the Observer comes where you can have your managed Chef and Puppet clients. Okay. So now what are the deployment strategies that you should follow? So let's open this white paper, which is the overview of deployment on AWS. This is a recent one. So you can see June 2020. And here we have the options of deployment model. And yeah, so the very first strategy is pre-baking versus bootstrapping the AMI. So if you are pre-baking, maybe the concept of golden AMI can be used, where you already have all the system and software installed in the AMI and you are using. The second one is bootstrapping. So bootstrapping is where you use the concept of user data to put your script, the bash script, and once your instance is running, everything will be ready according to your user data. So you can use that to deploy your systems. Then comes the blue-green deployment. So blue-green is majorly where you have both the infrastructure running, and within a minute you can switch from blue to green. Let's say if you have a version 1 present on blue and version 2 on green, your next version of the software, you can quickly switch using CNAME switch option in Beanstalk. And then comes the rolling update. So rolling update is like you will have uh, one instance going down and the another instance is taking up the deployment with the new version of the software that you have. For that, you can use rolling update with ECS or rolling update in Beanstalk or maybe a rolling update in OpsWorks. The second last is in-place deployment. So in-place deployment, you can only go with code deploy as of now. Here, your application version updates without replacing or changing your infrastructure component, and the previous version of application on each resource is stopped and the latest application is installed. Now, latest application has the new version of your application, which is started and validated, and that's how you can use your deployment with minimal disturbance to your underlying infrastructure. Next is combining the deployment services. So let's say if you have a model which does not fit into one category and you want to combine, so you can put 50% of your traffic to deploy using rolling or 50% to use rolling with additional batches or blue-green deployment. Okay, so this is a white paper officially by AWS. You can check out the white papers before going into exam. Okay. Now, this is global infrastructure, and put your focus here because we have a next quiz question coming up right after the this slide. Okay. So if you see the global region, currently AWS has 25 regions, each with multiple AZ, and there are total 80 availability zone, which with 5 local zone and 13 wavelength zone. So they are for ultra latency application. The AWS has recently announced 5 new region and 12 local zones. There are supposed to be more than 2x regions that is with multiple availability zone. It is now in 245 countries and territories. You don't have to remember this data, but make sure that you know what region, availability zone, and edge location means. Okay. So here is the quiz question for all of you. Which of the following is not part of AWS global infrastructure? Perfect. I'll give you 10 more seconds to answer this question. Okay, perfect. Let's see. So here you need to just take care of not word because usually we just see the question and global infrastructure, go with any of them. So read the question properly, and the correct answer is placement group. Thank you so much for participating in this quiz, and we'll be now handing over to the next part. Okay, so these are the core AWS services that everyone should know. And EC2, VPC, S3, RDS, Lambda, Route 53, SNS, SQS, or ELB. There are more AWS services, but these are the core ones that is used everywhere. And now let's see the support plan of AWS. Okay, so currently they are having three different plan. First is like free tier is always there, but if you have a use case, you can go with developer, business, or enterprise. So here, a trusted advisor does 7 core checks for you, but in business or enterprise model, you get full support. And if you see, the most of the features are only present with enterprise because they are meant to use for enterprise. Let's say programming case management is available with AWS support API for business and enterprise. So in exam, they ask you questions like this, that what are the different support plan and how do you take care of them? What are the RTO and RPO with the account? What if your business goes down? So what will be the support that is provided to you? What is the cost? So here, if you see, for the developer model, you need to pay $29 or the 3% of your monthly uses. Or if you are using business one, then 10 percentage for the first 10K and following so on. And for enterprise, it almost goes like same. Okay. So AWS support is always available, and whenever I have a query, I just visit the AWS support portal, and they are always ready to help. Okay. Now I'll be taking some of the quiz question, and this is the last uh, domain that I have. Okay, so there's a question from Indujit. Public cloud vendor services are entirely separate from public internet. Uh, okay, so here, public internet is something where you can access anything. Okay, but the public cloud vendor services does not gives you complete visibility of their resources unless and until you as a user explicitly say that this resource should be public. So let's say if you are not using internet gateway for your VPC or the NAT gateway for your private one, then you will not be having complete access to the internet. So yes, for this, they are completely separate. But if you want to make them public, then you should explicitly allow using services like internet gateway. Okay. Please explain container and Kubernetes once again. Okay. So containers and Kubernetes are very broader concepts, and it just evolves with how your Docker works or how your other type of container system works. I recommend you to check out the official documentation of containers. So for any service that you want to check it out, you can just type aws.amazon.com, and then you can put slash service name that you want. So maybe like, let's check out the container part. Okay. Oh, this is typo. Okay, so I think they don't have support for this. Maybe they will have support for ECS directly for the component. So yeah, ECS gives you a highly secure, reliable, and scalable way to run your containers. And there are different models. So this is how your ECS works. If you have a Fargate use case or you want to deploy globally to the different places, you can use and manage your containers on the go. I recommend you checking out this, and it has a lot of rich use cases that it provides. Okay, now we are heading towards the last domain, which is billing and pricing. Okay, so these are the three subdomains. One of the pricing models we just saw is, okay, how do you pay for your AWS? Now, these are the three types. First is pay as you go and save when you reserve. And third is pay less by using more. So let's visit this pricing page and see what it has got for us. Okay, so these are the three models that you get with AWS. So pay as you go model allows you to easily adapt the changes with your business, and you don't need to forecast your cost and then save when you reserve. So you can do this with EC2 and RDS. You can reserve your resources for 1 or 3 years, and AWS gives you around 75% or equivalent discount over reservation and pay less by using more. So if you're using something like S3 where the price is tiered, for the first 10 GB, you need to pay X amount. For next 10 GB, it will be X minus 10 and so on as you use more. For checking out the pricing, you can just select the category and then click on the service. So let's say S3 pricing, how it goes. Okay. Okay. Let me just close all these tabs. Okay. So S3, if you're using S3, then you need to pay for storage. You need to pay for request and data arrival, maybe your put or get request. Then comes the data transfer between regions, between availability zones. And you also pay for the analytics that it gives, maybe something like inventory, storage class analysis, lens, or object tiering. Then if you are replicating your data within the same region or two across region, then now recently AWS has introduced S3 object lambda where you can put your code in S3 bucket and directly use. Okay, so it is very cheap service, and the pricing example is very nicely explained here. For checking out the pricing model of how services works, AWS has filtered out using the category option. So you can check out how the media service, maybe something like elementary transporter or media package, the pricing is tiered. Okay. So I'll be sharing these slides with you all and you can check out this link. Okay. So this is a part of quiz question. Which of the following is the most efficient option when you purchase either a standard or convertible for 1 year term? So when you will get the most discount when you are using purchase option with reserved category for your instances. The time is mentioned specifically for 1 year. So you can take your time and answer. I'll give you 10 more seconds to think and answer. So if you are paying partially, then you should get the highest discount, or when you are paying nothing at front, then you should get deferred, or the last option is all upfront. Okay. Thank you so much for participating in this quiz. We will now see the correct answer, which is all upfront. Okay. So panelist, whoever has answered D would be the correct one. Perfect. Okay. Now, AWS account structure consideration. What are the things to take care of consideration when you are using AWS account? So first is group resources that requires different payment instrument. Maybe you can group them based on the teams, based on the software, based on your different customers. If you have multiple clients or customers, then second is providing groups with different level of administrator control over AWS resources. So let's say if finance team is just monitoring for billing purpose, you should not give them the access for different stuff. And then better control when you reserve the instances for specific workload. That matters a lot. We just saw one of the pricing discount model when you are reserving resources for maybe a more than a year or 3 years. Then you can identify untagged costs such as Data transfer. Data transfer is something that is not in our control because we don't know how much of data will be transferred unless we use the resources. And last is using accounts associated with different business unit or functional team. So this is a feature of AWS organization where you can put your accounts into different business unit or different functional team. Okay. Now I have covered all the four domains. I'm sorry for the typo here. Okay. And now I'll be sharing the tips for scoring good marks. And next is the certification you should take. Okay. So when you are preparing for your exam, for this exam, hands-on experience is not required. But let's say if you want to check out more for the services, you should always go with hands-on, which is the very first tip that is given. Second is the online course for you to understand the services in a more better way. And last is practice test, where you will have the similar features of how you get into the real exam. And some of the free resources that are given is white paper. So we just saw one of the white paper for deployment. You can use maybe the service level FAQ or frequently asked questions about the services or the official documentations when you are preparing for your exams. So some of the tips that was given is like use the process of elimination. So if you have four options present, you can just eliminate based on they are whether making sense for this question or not. You should always read your question twice because there might be something like not present in the question which we generally don't read and we may go wrong. In exam, you will have mark for review feature. So you can just click on that feature and go ahead and later on come and solve that. Okay. And then use question of other to answer the question of other questions. So in some of the questions, some points are mentioned. You can use that, and then you can deep dive on specific AWS services, but always have your learning plan with goals. Okay, some of the my tricks that I always share is you always eliminate the option where you have third party tool or technology mentioned. Attempt the easy one first, or just skip the toughest one or the one which is very big, having big paras. Okay, if you have any doubt, mark as read and come back within 5 minutes to solve that. Now, since all the questions are scenario based, for this exam, majorly it will not focus on scenario based, but they will try to trick you with different names. Read FAQs a lot. FAQs are the key. It is where you can actually get into AWS and read about every stuff that you have. Okay. Or you can just watch random YouTube video for a specific service or specific feature. So maybe something like how SNS works, you can check out with a YouTube video. Then there are hands-on labs not present for particular service. Maybe for AWS infrastructure, you will not find more hands-on lab. So in that case, you can just watch the videos and then connect with people on LinkedIn and ask their experience of exam center if you're only going for the first time rather than you should not. Okay. We do have a one poll which is ready and we request everyone to answer this. So on your screen, you now have an option to answer the responses. Okay. So I see a lot of people are yet to take their first certification exam, and I wish them all the best for their certification journey with AWS. And now we will be seeing the other certifications that are present with AWS. Okay. So let's see, these are the available next AWS certifications for us. So if you are starting now, you can go with Cloud Practitioner. which is also very easy. If you saw, there is not much of technical things are required. But as you go ahead, I recommend you to start with the order that is mentioned here, or you can just randomly pick anyone according to the role or the task that you have. So maybe someone who is a DBA can directly go for database after cloud practitioner, or they can skip also. There is no mandatory to obtain a certain certification and then only go for the higher level. You can directly attempt DevOps if you are confident and if you are making good things in your mock exams. Okay. So yeah, I have the certifications, and now please wait for the surprise that we have. Okay. Now I have something more to show you. Yes. So I took a quiz on LinkedIn, and 1,644 people participated, where they told to use to go with solution architect first if you are just doing your first associate level certifications. Okay. So before closing, I have something to show is if you are a Vizlabs user, you can always go to play.vizlabs.com and check out the labs. So labs, maybe you can check out the learning path for cloud practitioner that we already have. Oh, so the labs for cloud practitioner. So for this exam, not much of knowledge hands-on is required. But still, if you are interested to do how the real stuff works and you are a Vizlabs user, then labs are always given to you for the free of cost. So to access a lab, you can just simply click on the lab, and I'll just give you one quick demo of how these labs work. So here you can see you have, okay, yes. So I'll just give you a quick demo of how to access the lab. So if you're a Vizlabs user, you can just go to vizlabs.com and click on the login button. So I have already logged in and I'll be clicking on my courses. Okay. Now click on the course that is enrolled. So I am now currently enrolled for the developer associate, and these are the link labs that we have. To start any of the lab, you can just directly click here. Okay. And click on the start lab. Once you click on the start lab, this will redirect you to play.vizlab.com, where you will be given a temporary environment to play around the services that are present. So in this case, this is about Elastic IP and associating that to EC2. Okay. So once you click on the start lab, you will have the temporary environment ready. So you don't need to pay anything if you are a Vizlabs user. If you are not, then we do have a surprise for you. Can we have surprise for our users? Sumanlata?
Sure, Abhishek. Here I come with the most amazing and awaited part of this webinar. Hope you people will enjoy this. And here we go. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Sumanlata. So if you are a Vizlabs user, if you're not a Vizlabs user, you can now get the exclusive discount. Use this code VizCCP60 to get 60 percentage, or if you want the whole access to Vizlabs content, you can just use Viz30 CCP to get 30 percentage discount on premium subscription. These coupon codes are valid for 1 week only. This is especially for webinar users, and I hope you enjoy the webinar. And I'm just providing the recording link. So here on the YouTube, you can go. Okay. Okay. So yes, if you have missed the webinar, you can watch out this recording on YouTube. I have shared the link here in the chat section. You can check out that. And And now I'll be taking some of the questions that we have. Okay. So one of the question from Indrajit is there something called demand capacity reservation? No. On demand and capacity reservation are two different things. And reserved one gives you greater pricing over the normal ones. Okay. So someone is asking for slides. Just give me a minute. Let me copy the link of slides to share. Okay. I'll be sending the slides link. Okay, so as of now, I don't have the option to share directly with you, but surely we would like to share this slides to help you prepare for the exam. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can click on the feature of raise hand, and I'll be unmuting you for that. On your screen, you can use the feature of raise hand, using which you can get the benefits. Okay, for your convenience, I'm providing the discount coupon in chats. Sumanlata, could you please provide the discount coupons? Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to post in the Q&A section, or you can directly click on the raise hand. I will unmute you and we can discuss your queries that you have. If you are using the computer currently, the slides are present. Okay, hands-on lab are free. Yes, if you are a Vizlabs user, if you have purchased a practice test or online course, the hands-on labs comes for absolutely free. Okay, I hope you all now have the access to the slides I have shared as a PPT, so you can access. Okay, how difficult is the practitioner exam? Okay, so practitioner exam is something where you can just go through the basics of AWS infrastructure and cloud model, and you will not find it much difficult compared to other exams. But definitely, if you are practicing and getting maybe like 70 to 80% in your mock, you will be able to pass the exam. Okay, so tell me about how many questions are there. Okay, just a minute. Let me reshare my screen and give you more example about the exam. Okay, so AWS certifications, there are multiple AWS certification presents. And for cloud practitioner, currently, let's open the exam guide and understand how many questions will be there to pass the exam. Okay. So your results are reported on a scale of 100 to 1000. Okay. And you need a minimum passing of 700. So you will have total, I think, 60 questions for this. Okay. Yes. Okay. So yeah, you will have 65 questions, either MCQ or multiple response types, and you have total 90 minutes to complete. This exam is of 100 USD dollar. And if you want to practice this, you can purchase a practice exam for $20 official. Or if you are a Vizlabs user, I want to use the Vizlabs content, you can go to vizlabs.com and try out the free test that we have to validate your knowledge.
It looks like there's an interruption. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Sorry for the interruption. There's a technical problem at the speaker's end. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Thank you for your patience.
Hello everyone. I'm back, and since I logged out completely, all the quiz questions are gone. And someone just repost the questions that we have here in the chat window. Okay. So one of the question is, does read replicas actually help in improving availability? Okay. So read replicas are majorly for your read queries. It is more focused where you have the database with analytics kind of application where you want to have read replica for your application. But in case of availability, it does provide you the disaster recovery option where you can promote your read replica to be a master copy of your database. So the answer is yes, it does, but it is not the ideal way. You should always use multi-AZ feature or the Aurora global table for doing so. Thank you for asking this question, Indrajit. Okay, so all the questions are answered. We are here for 9 more minutes. And in case you have missed the webinar, you can go and check out this YouTube link. Okay. We will be announcing the quiz winner on our social media platform. In case you have answered the question, stay tuned on WizLabs, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll be announcing the quiz winners very, very shortly. Okay. About social media platforms of WizLabs, you can go to About Us page and find it out. Yeah. Thank you so much, Indrajit, for asking the questions. If someone would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can use the link present in the chat section. Okay, so we are here for 1 more minute, and after that we'll be ending since there are no questions being asked. Please post your questions in the Q&A or chat. Now I'm available to answer at both the places. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. Okay, we are launching a poll. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. I'm now officially ending this webinar. In case you have missed it, the starting part, you can check it out on YouTube here. Stay safe, stay happy, and take care. Bye. Thank you.